Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. So, I want to talk to you some more about my thoughts about achieving enlightenment, spiritual transformation, ascension, immortality, escaping the matrix. Uh, Whatever word you want to use for that. You're going to have to forgive me, I'm a little bit loopy. I've been doing a lot of energy work lately, and I've rededicated myself to going very deep in some of the energetic practices that I do, so it makes me kind of loopy. But I'm sitting here meditating about it and thinking about it, and I want to share with you my thoughts. So you see here on the picture the 3 pillars to spiritual awakening. At the top I have self-awareness, and then on the other part of the triangle you have ritual, and on the other you have energy work. And it's interesting how everything seems to boil down to 3s. We have 3 energy centers in the body for processing life force energy. Excuse me. We have 3 dimensions that we live in. We have, in just about every spiritual tradition, you have some trinity that is running things. The Christian tradition, which, by the way, the Bible has no mention of Trinity, that was imposed because that was, people couldn't tolerate the thought of there not being some kind of Trinity running things. But they have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. The Chinese have heaven, earth, and man. My ancestors had Odin, Vili, and Ve. Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu in the Hindu tradition. So no matter where you go, you're going to come to these 3 things: mind, body, and spirit. Is the modern take on it. And I'm thinking about this because, now that, as I said, I'm doing some very intense energy work, it's very easy to be seduced into the idea that energy work, connecting to non-physical reality, can equate spiritual advancement. And we talk about people who have achieved spiritual powers. And again, as I've said before, this is a modern idea that if somebody has spiritual powers, we just assume they are spiritually advanced or enlightened. And that is a new concept. Our ancestors, if you go back, before the advent of monotheism and the salvation religions, which I would include Buddhism in, although I don't really have a whole lot of problems with Buddhism. It's not the path that works for me. But even Buddhism has this idea that, you need salvation. And you need to, achieve that. And this is very modern. So the modern New Age idea of wanting to achieve enlightenment, I would say the less advanced but very popular modern idea of escaping the matrix. These are all things that assume that there's something wrong with where you are and what's going on in your life. And if you just do these things, you'll achieve some kind of salvation. The Taoists, they sought to become immortal. And there's some really cool things I like about that, but there's still this idea that when we look at it from a Western perspective, that, becoming an immortal means to be saved, to escape. And as I said, I've been doing this kind of stuff for a pretty long time, and I've had all kinds of experiences, and I've had all kinds of different thoughts and feelings. There was a point in time, I was celibate for 6.5 years, and I was just training every day. in energy work and meditation, and I achieved a lot of pretty intense stuff. And as you may have known, I walked away from it after 6.5 years for a bunch of different reasons. One of them was that I saw that the people that I was training under, they had supposedly accomplished, all these very high levels, which they did. They had crazy amounts of power. And I came to realize that they were very unevolved people, that they were emotionally, psychologically, and morally, just nothing. There was just nothing there. And the only thing that I wanted from them at the end was I wanted to learn the techniques to be able to gain the power that they had. But then it was very disillusioning for me to realize that, this thing I've been chasing after for 6.5 years isn't going to fix me. It's not going to make it all go away. I'm just going to end up being a very powerful person with all the same emotional and psychological problems that everybody else has. And so I wanted to talk about these 3 pillars. The reason why I'm talking about it, to be honest with you, here's my challenge. My challenge with teaching, when I interact with, especially when I interact with people online, my experience is that there's just this understanding that comes from doing a lot of work. Hang on one second here. So there's a lot of work that we put into to try and get to that state, and our ancestors didn't look at things that way. As I've talked about before, if you look at fairy tales, there was no such thing as the person with spiritual power is advanced and other people aren't. There's just different kinds of people, and there happens to be these people called wizards and witches who have power. And just because they have power, it doesn't mean anything having to do with awareness. That if there was a wizard on the edge of the village, he might be a good wizard or a bad wizard. He might be a happy person or a mean person. He might be self-aware or not. That their power had nothing to do with it. So I was really thinking about, again, as I'm deleting messages here, the challenge that I run into with interacting with people online is what I see. I'm going to be honest, I see with a lot of people that I run into is what they need more than anything is counseling, which is the top of the pyramid there. The top of the pyramid here is self-awareness. Without self-awareness, the other 2 are meaningless. And these other 2, ritual and energy work, have one real goal, which is self-awareness. So can you accomplish self-awareness without ritual or energy work? Yes. The main thing that is most important is self-honesty. I talk about when people leave questions on my channel, what I recommend that they do is, hang on one second here. What I recommend that people do is make questions, because I really just want your questions when we're dealing with the live things, but ask an honest question based on emotional awareness. A lot of people ask me questions, and really what they have a question that is really authentic, that's close to their heart, but they don't ask that question. They'll ask a bunch of different things trying to get to that question. And those are, and as you know, when somebody does that, very often I'll say, what does that question mean? Or what are you trying to accomplish with that question? And sometimes I just cut to the chase and I say, what you really want to ask me is, and I'll get to what I feel is the emotional connection. But oftentimes that's not as helpful as it could be, because what is missing is them being able to become aware of their own emotional reality. Your emotional reality of why you want something, how you feel about something, is the baseline for understanding anything. Like if you want to achieve enlightenment, it's very important to understand what your true desire is and not have any judgments about it. And that requires a level of self-honesty that a lot of people don't have. So just as, you know, I don't know if you can see it, I just deleted a ton of comments. Somebody was just dropping really distracting, you know, unhelpful comments. And I deleted them. But that behavior that person is exhibiting, what's underneath that is there's an emotional reality that he's covering up by all of this action. And, you know, I shared in the last video, I shared about somebody who had come to me who wanted to learn for free. And, you know, I went through all of, you know, the unconsciousness and the destructiveness and the, you know, all the stuff that was going on in his communications with me. And had he just simply been aware emotionally what he wanted from me, and if he had said, hey, what I really want is to connect with you and I don't have any money, will you teach me for free? I wouldn't have taught him for free because we already talked about that, but I would have responded far more positively to him because he was being honest. Not because by being honest, you know, it's about me, although I do appreciate people being honest with me. It's about him. And the thing is, if you're not able to be honest about why you want anything, whether it be enlightenment, money, love, physical health, you know, if you're not able to be honest with yourself about your motivations for anything, it's going to be very challenging for you to achieve your spiritual awareness. Because, you know, whatever words you want to use, enlightenment, moksha, liberation, escaping the matrix, becoming an immortal, all of those things are about being able to know who you are and what you are. And then if you're able to be aware and honest with yourself, then you have to learn how to interact with the universe on a cooperative level. And the way we do that is we practice with each other. So when we learn how to be an evolved person when we interact with other people, then that helps us to have that same relationship with the universe. So again, we all have a relationship with the universe. And you know, how you interact with the universe will dictate how the universe is going to respond to you. So let's take a look again at somebody asked if we can ask questions. You can. This is a question and answer. The way to do that is to write the word question. This is how I would like you to do things. Write the word question in all caps so I can see it. So as you can see, I just deleted just a bunch of nonsense because, you know, I only want the questions. And so what I end up doing is I scroll through things that aren't a question. Unless I see this big question in capitals, then I stop. And then you can, you know, don't write your whole thing in all caps, but that's how I like to do that. And if you are going to write a question, write out the whole question. Like somebody writes here, wholeness versus duality, question mark. That's not a question. Write the whole thing. What is it you want to know? give yourself the respect. Here I'm teaching you exactly what I'm talking about. Give yourself the respect to write out a full question because you want your question to be understood and answered. It also happens to be, a good way to interact with me. It's kind of rude to just drop that, a question that isn't clear. So have the respect for yourself, have the respect for me and everybody else. Write out a full, honest question, and I'll do my best to answer it if we can. So I'm going to cover this up because I am getting distracted now by the things that are coming in, and I have some thoughts I want to share before I get to the questions. So self-awareness, that's where we want to be. Self-awareness is the ability to know what your motives are, what your thoughts and your feelings are. And combined with self-awareness is also having the ability to take constructive action. So there's a lot of people that may know what they're feeling and what their impulses are at any given moment. But that doesn't mean that they can act in consciousness. So knowing that, you're sitting there with your wife or your girlfriend at the beach, having lunch, and some amazing looking young woman comes walking by in a string bikini, and you catch it, out of the corner of your eye, and every part of you wants to just get up and, go and ask her out and see if you can take her home. Well, that's not constructive action. So to be conscious is to know, yep, I sure as hell feel that, but that would be very destructive at least to most relationships if I were to get up and do that. So I'm going to do everything in my power to keep my eyes focused on my wife or my girlfriend. That's just an extreme example. So, being aware of what you feel without any guilt. So if you can do that and not have any guilt that, oh my God, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and boy, everything in me, wants to go make something happen right now. If you can have that feeling without any judgment, and at the same time the most constructive behavior at the moment is to invest in my partner here who is actually a part of my life, who I love and who loves me, and so I'm just going to focus on them right now. You have to have both. You have to have the self-awareness and you have to have the consciousness, and that takes, for some people, a lot of time and a lot of effort. But I'm finding, for the most part, myself included, the biggest problem is just not being able to be honest with oneself. And part of that has to do with our Western society and how we've been programmed. We're programmed in Western society not to have feelings at all. That British idiom, have a stiff upper lip. That is pretty much the European mindset. The Western mindset is, and it means just don't have any feelings. Don't have any negative feelings whatsoever. There's somebody I know who is British, and when this person is really upset about something, this person will say, and I was rather annoyed at that person. And I go, oh, so that's British talk for you were really, really pissed off. It's this idea of just not having your feelings. It's not okay to have any of your feelings, especially negative feelings, where we've been programmed not to have anger, not to have lust, not to have fear, not to have sadness. Turn that frown upside down. For instance, in I think it's Korea, when somebody dies, it's acceptable for people to wail and pound on the wall and wail and cry. It's acceptable. And in many cultures, when somebody dies, you are expected to mourn for 40 days, 40, like mourn, cry, wail. It's just accepted in society that that's something you should do. Here in the West, somebody dies, we go and at the funeral, we might blink back a sniffle or a tear, and then we, give ourselves a day off, and then we go right back to work like nothing ever happened. So we shove all this stuff down. So that's my biggest trouble is trying to interact with people who aren't even aware of what they're feeling, and they come at me in all kinds of different ways. And I'm no different than them. I grew up in this society as well. So the honesty and the ability to monitor your behavior at the same time, to have all your feelings without any guilt or without any censorship, and still being able to have control over your impulses and your actions. That's really what self-awareness is. And then on the left we have ritual. So ritual is important because in order to have that honesty of oneself, and in order to have the impulse control to know how to take positive action, sometimes in complete opposite terms of your feelings, that means we need to go and work with the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is the programming. So, on here, I haven't looked at it here, but there's, you saw, let's see, who is this? There's another person. All right, so I don't accept any kind of abuse. So if I find you abusive, you will be blocked. So say goodbye to this individual because I find that abusive. So goodbye. You can watch, but you won't be able to comment anymore. The reason why we do ritual is because our unconscious mind, I was going to say, the reason why, I'm, deleting messages and all that is, these are people who, from my experience, may not be aware, number one, of what they're feeling and why they're feeling it. But it also shows they have no impulse control. So they don't have the ability to understand their impulse and then be able to take conscious action. That's just maturity, just being able to be mature. And unfortunately, this is what happens in, YouTube land. We got a lot of people who may not have that ability. Ritual is something that is important for the unconscious mind because the unconscious mind will not respond to anything that doesn't influence it symbolically and energetically. So whether it's you're going to church, like the ritual of, and I'm not a Christian, as you know, anymore. I'm not a Christian. I've completely rejected that whole scenario. But it's a very powerful ritual where you go to communion. And it doesn't matter if you're doing the Protestant or the Catholic kind of communion. The eating of the wafer as it being the body of Christ and drinking the grape juice or the wine being the blood of Christ. It doesn't matter that consciously that that's not really the body and the blood of somebody. The unconscious mind, however, takes the symbolism very seriously. And I can remember as a kid going to church. I don't know if they do this now, but when I was a kid going to Baptist church, you were encouraged not to take communion if you knew that you were acting in a way that was destructive. They would have used other words. But that's really what they meant. In other words, if you're not being authentic to yourself, you shouldn't do the ritual. You shouldn't take communion. And of course, that was left up to everybody. And then there was the whole pressure of, well, if I don't take communion, then people are going to know I'm sinning. So you ended up doing it anyway. But that, I'm thinking about that, and that was actually it's a very powerful way to get you to look at yourself and go, wow, is this really how I want to live my life? How do I feel like I'm being authentic, that I'm valuing my own integrity? So this is the power of ritual. It can get into your unconscious mind and help you to reprogram and become aware. So this is why it's important to do ritual. Why, if you get a Vedic astrological reading from me, in your chart, I'll be able to see what is the ritual you need to do. Which direction to face, what planet and the deity associated with that planet you should chant to, what mantra, and what offering to give. And these things have, among other things, they have symbolic significance to the unconscious mind. And the whole point of all of that is to help you to become conscious of all of your thoughts and all of your feelings, all of your agendas, and at the same time eventually be able to get to the place where you have power over your impulses. So you can take constructive action even though you may want to do something completely different, the complete opposite of what you want to do. You know, you're at the store and you want to, you know, you're in line and there's an old lady in front of you and she's pulling out all of her nickels and dimes, and you want to just, you know, push her out of the way and tell her, get the hell out of my way, old lady, and you want to go, and instead you realize that's not really the best thing to do. You learn how to say please and thank you. You know, this is what politeness is all about. It's about learning how to take constructive, mature action regardless of your impulses. So that's the one on the left. What's the other one I have? The 3 pillars. On the other one, you have energy work. Now, this is what I've been doing a lot of recently, which is a lot of energy work. Energy work is, first off, let me just say, energy work, when you find the one that works for you, it feels really good. And I have to be honest with you, and again, this is part of self-awareness, is being completely honest, being able to be honest. I do it because it feels good. That's the main reason I do it. Now that is the universe. The universe has set things up so that, you know, like procreation. You know, if sex didn't feel good, we wouldn't do it, which means there'd be a lot less people in the world. Now that's a good thing now, but you know, 100,000 years ago, human beings were struggling just to survive on the planet. So it was important. So the universe will set up payoffs. If it's helpful for the species or for whatever, it'll feel good. Energy work feels good. That's why I do it. But the result of energy work is that it will allow you to have more power to go into your ritual and have more power to become honest. When you do real energy work, it gets into the cells of your body and starts to vibrate you at various levels, which will, in order for you to tolerate being at those higher levels of vibration, you have to be honest. So it all comes down to being self-aware and being honest. You know, the guys that I talked about in the beginning who had tons of power, like unbelievable amounts of power that could do things that, you know, you wouldn't believe. And at the same time, they were very unevolved, very destructive people. It's because they didn't take that skill, you know, those exercises that made them feel good, that made them drunk with power. They didn't take those exercises and then take them to the next level where it changes your awareness. The more, I shouldn't say that, they did it in their own way and their own timing. I suppose that's my judgment of them. I would have liked to have seen them, you know, come to more awareness and more maturity. But as I said, you know, here's the bottom line of all of it. There is no quick path. And that is not something I wanted to hear. I was watching again, you know, I was going on YouTube, and there's a teacher out there that I'm aware of who has had access to some very powerful energy work. And let me just say, there are all different kinds of energy work out there. There is, you know, your basic energy work, like your basic Hatha yoga, or your basic Tai Chi, or your basic Zen meditation, or whichever energy work you want to do. And there are secret energy techniques out there that are secret and forbidden. And they're secret and forbidden for a bunch of reasons, but one of them is because there is a quick way to power. And a lot of people confuse power with spiritual evolution. And so this person, you know, I'm listening to this person talk, and I'm aware of some of the exercises and techniques that they use. And this person is saying, and I'm here to give you the quick and easy path. And, you know, that if you just do this, you will awaken your inner abilities and you will become enlightened. I've done it, and I'm going to do it for you. And if you know, take my course or whatever. And the stuff this person teaches is actually quite powerful. It's quite effective. But the truth is that if you do those techniques, you will gain power very fast. But what I've also seen is that those same people who do some of those same techniques and gain power very fast end up in a much worse state at the end, because they don't have the maturity and the discipline internally to then take that power and not use it for selfish gain, and not become deluded by their power, and then end up doing destructive things to themselves and other people. So there's a reason why some of that stuff is left alone. There's a very real danger of becoming a Darth Vader. Talked about that in some other videos. So those are the three things that are most important, and this is really what I'm trying my best to find a way to, if I could get you everything, the most powerful stuff that got you enlightened tomorrow, I'd give it to you. The reality is this: there isn't one. There just has to be a lot of work involved. It has to be a lot of discipline. It has to be a lot of self-awareness. And there is no quick and easy path. But there is a path. And you can achieve all the things that you truly want. And this is what these techniques are for. 90-day challenge is one of them. That's one that works for me, which is why I offer it to you. So I'll go ahead and see if there are any questions. As I said, if you've got a question, leave it. I'm really not interested in anything else you want to dump on there, even positive or negative. You don't have to say anything nice about me. I don't need that. But I really don't want to have to scroll through, your personal nonsense. So Briss asks a question. Hello, is it possible to book a single meeting with you? Yes, it is. And I'll tell you where to go to do that. Go to career.thunderwizard.com and scroll to the bottom, and then you'll see a place where you can purchase a private session with me. It says it's about career consultation, but I'll take any consultation if you want to book it. And then when you've booked it, I will then email you the link for where you can schedule your session. And then you can pick the day and the time based on my availability that works for you. Let's see. No, that's not a question. Flying Dutchman asks a question. All right, so Flying Dutchman. Two most important things in life. Number one, pay attention and put effort. So if you've paid attention, because I think you've been on here before. If you pay attention, you've heard me repeat myself over and over again that I'm only interested in a question. And that if you ask me an honest question based on something you want to learn because you think I have knowledge that you want, that's what I'm looking for. So now let's take a look at your question and see if you applied those two rules of paying attention and putting effort. You say, why don't you listen, only hear what you want to hear? It's not an honest question. That doesn't fit within what I just said, which is if you have a question about some knowledge that you think I have that you want, ask me about that. So that's not an honest question. And if you want to share thoughts and opinions, I'm not here competing with you. You have your own YouTube channel. You are more than welcome to go on your channel and do live streams and make videos and write your own books and put out your knowledge anywhere you want. That's why. This is, as I said, this is a question and answer. It's not a free-for-all. So hopefully I answered your question. If I find you to be sarcastic and abusive going forward, I'll just block you. If you want to really ask me an honest question, I'll be happy to help you. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, Flying Dutchman. So you are the epitome of somebody who does not have the ability to, to battle their impulses. You can't resist any impulse. Either that or you're a kid. I can't tell. If you're over the age of like 12 or 13, then there's really no excuse for that. It means that, there's really something up with you. But at the very least, you could benefit by having a little bit of self-discipline. Let's see what else. Briss, question. Am having troubles in life currently with finding ways to pull income and keeping my time in my life to practice my spirituality. Do you have any insight on this? Yeah, I do. I can remember having that exact problem. Because the practice that I have sometimes takes hours a day to, get the level of, like I said, I do this because it feels good, to get the level of energy that feels good. And I can remember in my 20s, really struggling with that. So, the whole idea about income, first off, comes from, if you want to learn how to make money and do what you want, I want you to watch my videos and or read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I've got videos on the channel. I've got a book about it. And on the thunderwizard.com, this is what this is all about. If you really want to get your questions answered, you can go and subscribe at different levels. And there's one called the Manifestation Mastery course. So I teach you exactly how to get the universe to give you what you want. The short answer is you're in conflict. Now, I don't know how old you are. Like me, I was actually, fairly young. So this is one of the things that happens when people are young. But here's the deal. The universe must give you the resources to accomplish what your soul wants to do. So the main reason for being on this planet is to become aware of what your soul wants and then to do everything in your power to do it. Now that will create an adventure where you have to fight against your own unconscious resistance. And that's what video games are about. We play video games because it's what life is. You have the goal, you fight all the monsters, and then you get the end, and you get the whatever the prize is at the end. But along the way, you learn how to overcome the challenges. But first, you have to know where you're going. You have to know where to go. So when I talk about the Matrix, and I've got some stuff up here, again, these links are here for you guys. And if you are somebody who just comes onto the live stream and watches and you don't click on the links and you don't investigate it, then those are resources that are there for you to help you do exactly these kinds of things. So Briss, if you're new to the channel, I invite you to take a look at those links there. I have one product which will be down very soon. Lockdown.thunderwizard.com. So if you're not familiar with it, go there. You can save $2,000 and get access to a lot of things, including how to master the matrix. So you're having difficult ways to find. So the way is your income has to be what your soul desire is. They're either closely related or it might be the same thing. So watch those videos. I won't get into it right now, but put the time in to watch those videos, and on another live stream you can get back to me if you have questions about that. Matthew Wright, nobody asked you for your religious opinion. I'm gonna block you. I find Christians, that's the thing about Christianity. They think if they can shove their religion down your throat. How do I know that? Because I used to be a Christian minister. I used to be one of those guys that preached on the street when I was in my 20s. I was the one with the Bible on the street telling you had to accept Jesus or go to hell. And, I don't do that anymore, but it's definitely one of the most destructive things. I mean, this person has no business on my channel, so we're just going to go ahead and block him. Flying Dutchman again, I'm just not interested. What is this? So this looks like you're going to say something abusive. So you're this close to getting blocked. Let's see. You say, I am nobody, no self. I am the self-aware symbiote. Yeah, except that you don't have any impulse control. You can't stop yourself from just blurting out whatever the hell you want to say or do. You don't see how disrespectful and how, destructive you are. The Ghost in the Machine, God has had bad days, then we blame Satan as the Holy Spirit. At Briss, it's because you need to share your money sharing. Anyway, so I'm going to give you a little bit of leeway if you're not able to, just be here and listen and ask. constructive questions, we will eventually block you, but I'll give you one more chance here. Let's see, what else do we got? Yeah, there was a lot. I didn't even read all the rest of whatever you had said there. Nope, there's no more questions. A lot of opinions. Yeah, and see, he started this back and forth. That's what I hit. Now I have to scroll through all the back and forth. Glitch Baby, question, what is power? Glitch Baby, are you new to my channel? What do you expect is going to come from that question? That's like asking, what is the universe? What is love? I mean, if you have a specific question, I'll be happy to answer it. But that's such a huge question. How could I possibly answer that question in a soundbite? Do you even know what you want to ask? Like, why are you asking? Here's a good example. What is power? Now, maybe you're just bored and you have nothing better to do, and you saw me come on and you thought you'd type in a question you thought might be, whatever. If that's not the case, and you're asking that because you want to know what power is and you have a sincere desire, there's an emotional desire for you to have power for some reason. So if you can get more specific about what it is you really want and why you're asking the question, and ask from your honest emotional state of being, I might be able to answer you. But I don't sense that you have an honest need in that question. It just sounds like something that you say when you're having a few beers with somebody. You kind of want to, don't want to have too much silence in the room, so you ask a question. Oh, what are your thoughts on what is power? And then you listen to somebody. I don't see any more questions here. Let's keep going. Next said Arellano. Question. I've been doing a routine for trying out-of-body experience. Is it really possible? Yeah. Real question is, what do you want to accomplish with that? I'm far more interested in why you want to have an OBE. Get to the feelings behind it. Yeah, it's possible. And then what? Then what are you going to do once you've had it? Then what? Okay, I don't see any questions here. We've got, it says, how many people we got watching here? I'm refreshing my page to see how many people we got on here. So it says we got 18 people on. All right, so I'm going to give you a little chance if you have a question about any of those three things. Awareness, ritual, what is ritual, and energy work. If you have any questions about those things, I'll be happy to answer it. In the meantime, let's talk about the 90-day challenge. So the 90-day challenge was something that I put together, and I'm actually working on phase 2 of the 90-day challenge. But right now we've got the 90-day challenge on there, and I created that for this very reason. Talking only goes so far. And I can come on here and we can talk all day and we can philosophize all day. And ultimately I found it means nothing, because talk doesn't give people the power to change their life. And what I want to do is I want to help you change your life. I want you to be able to manifest your desires. I want you to be able to have an interaction with the universe to such a degree that all you have to do is just become aware of what it is that you want, and it will manifest. And so I've done all kinds of things. I've created the matrix, how to exit the matrix, how to control the matrix. I've, manifestation mastery course. I've done all that, and yet I still run into people, even though they might have some awareness of these concepts. They still run into challenges manifesting, which means I'm still running into people who are having some challenge knowing who they are. And so I became aware that, one of the things that's been extremely helpful for me has been energy work. I have tons of energy work on the channel. If you go look on my channel, you'll see Qigong and meditation and mantra and rituals and things like that. But some people want to be taught from A to B to C. And some people have said, can you just videotape yourself doing your work, and we'll just follow along with you. And so I created a very specific energy path for understanding what your soul wants and making it and manifesting it. So I've done all the talking, but I haven't shown you how to do the energy work, because see, at the top of the triangle here, we've got self-awareness. Now, one of the ways that you can achieve self-awareness very well is through counseling. This is what psychologists and psychiatrists are about. But being aware of what's in your unconscious doesn't necessarily give you the power to change anything. There's plenty of alcoholics and drug addicts out there who are very aware that they're addicted, but they can't stop. They don't have the power to stop. So you have to have power to be able to take different actions sometimes. So that is why we're here to do this, just to shift the energy so you have the power to take different actions. And so combined in that is ritual and is energy work. And then, of course, the self-awareness. I do a little bit of work in there helping you to become self-aware. All right, so let's see. Now I've seen some questions, I think, pop up, so let's take a look and see here. Zarelath question. What is the relationship of the 3 steps of spiritual awakening and the 3 selves? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we do have 3 selves for that very reason. That's a very good question. So let's take a look at the 3 pillars again. So self-awareness would be your higher self, what you might call your third eye, or your higher self, which is an actual entity. So you're actually not just one entity. You are a community of a bunch of different energies and entities, like cells. Each cell is its own little universe, but it works in concert with a bunch of, billions of other cells. You are also made up of different entities and different consciousnesses. The main ones are the 3 ones. You have the higher self, you have the lower self, I'm touching my navel, and you have the middle self, which is your soul. So the higher self would be at the top where it says self-awareness, because at any given time, you can stop and ask your higher self to enlighten you about what needs to happen. It may take a long time to get to that place. If you're like the Flying Dutchman who can't seem to stop, his impulses to do things and say things, it's going to be challenging, at least when he's like that, it's going to be challenging for him to sit and hear the advice of his higher self, which would say, why don't you stop typing for a little bit and listen? But again, we have this impulse control, which is then coming from the next important link, which is your lower self. So the lower self would be associated with ritual. So ritual, that has to do with giving your lower self structure. If the lower self, which is where all of your emotions are, all of your psychological constructs, all of your thoughts about who you are, what you think your identity is. My name is so-and-so, I grew up here, I believe this, the world does this to me and I am that. Those are all concepts that are held in your lower self. And your lower self is actually where all of your power comes from. So your ability to take action on the decisions and the awarenesses that you have is based in your lower self. So if you've noticed people who, for instance, let's say somebody really wants to do well financially, but they're just constantly poor. And no matter how hard they try, they can't seem to get any money coming in. They're perfectly aware that that's what they want. They might even have a list of what to do, but no matter what they do, they just end up losing money no matter what. Well, that would mean that there's a conflict on the unconscious level. The lower self has a conflict. And so there's some kind of unconscious programming that says money's no good and or you don't deserve money, or something along those lines. Now, you're not consciously aware of that, but on an unconscious level, that program is constantly running. Bzzz. So ritual goes in there and breaks that up, which will then filter up to your awareness, and you'll become aware of, oh my God, I'm afraid of being wealthy, or whatever it is. And then once you have that awareness, then we get to the third pillar, which is energy work. So energy work, what I've found is that this is going to be confusing. I'm going to associate energy work with the heart center. It doesn't necessarily mean that you work all the time directly with the heart center, although you can. But normally what you want to do is you want to work with the navel center and build up energy and have it, make its way up to the heart center. But energy work is the heart center. And that has to do with raising the vibration of your essence. Energy work helps you raise the vibration of your souls, of the cells in your body, so that you will have an awareness, have a feeling, a connection with something beyond yourself, which has to do with the soul, even if you're dealing with energies of the lower self or whatever. But the soul is your connection to the infinite. And your connection to the infinite is what gives you the ability to take action towards things that you don't think are possible. So this whole idea of achieving spiritual enlightenment, moksha, liberation, all that, there's an unconscious, unstated assumption that it's beyond our ability. And so we seek after spiritual teachings and spiritual practices so that we can actually be empowered by that. That person asked why that person asked, is it possible to have an out-of-body experience? And I asked the question why, because I'm willing to bet, I can't speak for them, but I'm willing to bet if I dig deep enough, I'm going to find out that person wants to have an out-of-body experience because it will make them feel like they can connect with the universe, that they can trust and believe that they are not just this physical being, but that they have a spiritual essence, right? And these things help us to take action towards our highest spiritual soul desire. So the long answer is self-awareness is the higher self, ritual is the lower self, energy work has an association with the middle self. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, so we're all going to say goodbye to the Flying Dutchman. He's just being a pain in the rear end. I don't think he's serious about being here, and I find his behavior disrespectful and abusive, so we're just going to say goodbye to him. He can watch, but he won't be able to comment. Next said Arellano question, how do I increase my manifestation power? Well, as it so happens, we have this link over here called thunderwizard.com, and on there is a thing called the Manifestation Mastery Course. So I go into depth teaching you exactly how to increase your manifestation power. That's why I wanted to try, he wanted to try out-of-body experience so he could increase his manifestation power. First, let me help you with that. Your out-of-body experience isn't necessarily going to increase your manifestation power. This is the pitfall and the illusion and danger of spiritual work. Like I was talking about, like my teachers who were incredibly powerful, but their lives were a mess. They didn't have the ability to take that incredible power that they had and make their life any better. Because your life is going to get better when you're connected to your true authentic self. When you're operating from your authentic self, whether you do energy work or not, your life will go, swimmingly. So that's an assumption. And if you go to just subscribe at the basic level at thunderwizard.com, you'll learn that the first thing you have to do is take a look at your assumptions about the universe and learn, there are certain assumptions you need to adopt if you want to be successful. One of them is you have to trust the universe. Now, if I say to you The most important thing is to trust the universe. Consciously, you nod your head, but emotionally, you go, no, I don't trust the universe. That's going to be a problem. So now you have your first task, which is to make a habit of assuming that the universe wants to help you. You want to, see, this is what I mean. You want to increase your manifestation power. That means that you obviously don't think that you have the ability to manifest, or that there's some block to your manifestation, or there's a lack of power or something, and that's just not true. The truth is, if you were aware of what your soul wanted, and you were aware of any conflict you had, for instance, you want to become like I said yesterday, a Gothic ballerina, but your father wants you to be an MMA, superstar. Well, that's a conflict. And the conflict is you have to decide, do I want to do what makes my soul happy, or do I want to make my dad happy? Now, even if you go, well, I wouldn't do that. I don't care what my parents think. Well, you still have all kinds of values in your head. And so the challenge is, are you aware of what your soul wants to do? And if you are aware, then are you aware of the conflict? And, that's the first thing that will happen. You'll become aware of the conflict between you and your authentic self. So that's why you're not manifesting. Having an out-of-body experience, maybe if you have an out-of-body experience, you'll go, oh my God, there is this other realm and I need to listen to what my soul wants. And maybe that will give you the mental power to then make decisions and take action on them. But what I found is that a lot of people seeking out-of-body experiences, what ends up happening is that they become attached to the feelings that they have of escape that come. And so it ends up becoming a deterrent. This is what drugs and alcohol are. Basically people are trying to escape their present scenario, and they want to feel differently. And in fact, I've known people who were so good at doing lucid dreaming that they could go into these lucid dreams and go into whole other universes, and that became their whole life. And they're living in a studio apartment, and they can't hold down a job because they don't want to be here. They want to be off in some other world that they find. So having an out-of-body experience, I'm not going to say that's not a good reason, but it's not necessarily going to give you what you want. Let's see, what else? What else? No, I don't see any other questions. So are we done with all the questions? Okay, so let's see, is there anything else I want to say? Yeah, and once again, as I said, I'm getting back into, at least for the time being, really deep into this practice that I've done. I haven't been doing it, very deeply for some years now, and I'm doing it quite intensely, and the power is amazing. But now at this stage, I'm able to look back and go, oh wow, power doesn't mean anything. In fact, let's talk about becoming an immortal. So in the Chinese tradition, people don't seek to achieve enlightenment. They don't seek to escape reincarnation or moksha. They seek to become a perfected immortal. And the whole reason for doing that is they want to hold on to their current conscious identity and continue to achieve their highest awareness. In other words, they don't want to lose that and then have to be reborn as a kid and start all over again. That's kind of an illusion, because even if you're born as a kid, it doesn't matter. You bring with you both your knowledge and your mistakes. You bring those things with you. So there's really no right or wrong. It's just, the choice that you make. Even if you become a perfected immortal, you become a god and you sit up in the stars somewhere, you still have to learn. You still have to grow. You still have to become fully aware. You still have to achieve self-awareness. Yeah, so that's, and they know that. So the point of that isn't to gain, the true guys who are seeking to become a perfected immortal, they're not doing it for the power that comes with it or all the special powers, that you get along the way as you're working towards it. But they do it so that they can continue to do the internal work of self-awareness so that they can achieve what everybody else wants to achieve, which we would call enlightenment or whatever else. Two Moons question. Should I learn how to do the Hool breath before doing the 90-day challenge? No, the Hool breath takes you 2 seconds to learn, and it's part of the 90-day challenge. So no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to learn that first. I would take the 90-day challenge and learn it while you're doing the 90-day challenge. What else? Nothing else? Nothing else. I don't see any more questions. All right, that's it for me then, guys. I've done all the business. You know where to go. Stay safe. And I will talk to you all real soon. If you have any questions, feel free to leave questions in the YouTube comments section. And if you have things you want me to talk about, videos you want to hear me talk about, you can leave those suggestions in there as well. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good night. Talk to you all later.